What's up, everybody out there? How you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Pepe's Point of View. I'm your favorite host, your favorite R&B historian, your favorite music critic, Pepe, and I want to welcome you back, you new viewers, you returning viewers, and you subscribers. Thank you guys so much for tuning in over here. I'm going to try not to be long with this video at all, simply because it's taking long times. It's taking a lot of time for my videos to upload, and it usually doesn't take that long. I know I hear a lot of people talking about how long it takes their videos to upload, but here lately it's been taking like an hour, maybe like 2 hours. For my videos to upload, so I'm not quite sure what's going on with that, and I've deleted, space, things that I have on my, laptop and all of that stuff. But it is what it is. One month is not going to stop a show. I promise you, it's not. But let's dive right into it. The Queen of Soul, Aretha Franklin. I tell you, listen to this album, Love the Hurt Away. What I'm discovering about Aretha Franklin, I see her in a different light. And what I'm loving about what I'm doing now, listening to music, and I guess in a deeper sense, not just from, as a music buyer, a music lover, but now I'm really taking on what I would call the critique, part of all of this, and really listening to the music and listening to all the albums. And here's the thing, I don't necessarily have to, dish out the dirt, if you will, regarding my R&B divas or anyone for that matter. You can just basically listen to their music and just get a sense of who they're working with and what's going on at the time, to kind of, create a story. And that's the part I think that I'm loving most about all of this. Most people like to, really dish out the dirt, and things like that. And, there is a, space for that. But for me right now, I just love talking about the artist, the music, and all of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But uh when I say I see Aretha Franklin in a different light, follow me. So we have the 1980s, okay? It's a new decade that's coming in. Uh and Aretha Franklin, when you start out your career, sometimes you're just not going to have immediate success, correct? And when you look at an artist's career, when they, they're, let's just say, they're not on a national stage. There might be locally, they might be regionally, and then maybe nationally, and still not with a recording home, right? But they're creating a buzz about themselves. And then they go from that buzz to now they're going into the studio recording music. And sometimes that music is just not hitting. And what you have here in the case of Aretha Franklin, follow me, is that it's kind of like, oh, she has it. She got it, whatever that is. But she has it, she got it. And people think, and even, executives and producers and songwriters be like, wow, she sounds great. I know that she or he can do a lot with my music or with my sound. I know it's going to work. But it does not always work out that way, right? And so an artist that you think is going to hit because they're just extremely talented does not always happen. So you have that with Aretha Franklin, right? Her career, I'm not going to say is struggling. I say a fledgling, artist, if you will. And that success is going to eventually, happen for that singer or for Aretha. And then what ends up happening is that she achieves it, right? She finally achieves that success. And as I am listening to her music, these first two albums of the 80s, and this is my first time listening to an entire Aretha Franklin album. It is, of course, I'm not a product of the 80s, but I consider myself an 80s babies because I was born in the late 70s. And so the music that I am aware of is the music that you probably hear in 78, 79, and then 80, 81, 82, 83, and so on and so forth. So I'm familiar with that latter part of the 70s music. So where I'm going with this is that here she is, she's in the 80s, and now her career, she's in a career slump, a sales slump, right? Something that she's probably has experienced before. But we're talking about the legendary Aretha Franklin, right? We're talking about Chain of Food Aretha Franklin. We're talking about, Ain't No Way Aretha Franklin. We're talking about Rock Steady Aretha Franklin. We're talking about that Aretha Franklin, giving him something he can feel, Aretha Franklin. And so where I'm going with all of this is this lady, Aretha Franklin, has had a tremendous amount of success. And now all of a sudden, as I said, she finds herself in a career slump. So as I'm listening to these two albums, and of course I'm saying to myself, oh my gosh, she's chosen to work with Chuck Jackson, one half of Natalie Cole's songwriter and producer team. And I'm listening to this album, I'm saying to myself, like, this is so Natalie Cole. Oh my gosh, what are they doing? And I'm saying to myself, like, Clive Davis, what are you doing? Like, what is it? Why haven't you put your stank on this, Clive? That's how I'm thinking. This is Aretha Franklin. You're giving Aretha Franklin this kind of material. Now it works for Natalie Cole, and it's like, whoa, perfect. Natalie Cole knocks this kind of material out the park. But for Aretha Franklin, I'm saying like, oh my gosh, she sounds like just another diva that you can get anywhere and put them in a recording studio and say, okay, I'm in the music business, I'm a singer, but not necessarily have had success, but she's with this album is coming off as like, yeah, I'm a singer, I have an album out, blah blah blah, right? So now with this album, Love the Hurt Away, I'm saying to myself, like, oh my gosh, I love Arif Martin. There I go again, butchering his name, Arif Mardin. But so she's working with him, and as I'm listening to this album, I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is so Chaka. This works for Chaka. This does not work for Aretha. And so as I'm listening to these two albums, and I'm saying to myself, like, okay, what is it? And it wasn't until I just really stopped and I had to say something to myself that I never thought I was going to say to myself. I never thought I was going to have this perspective about Aretha Franklin, but I do. And I have to honestly say, oh my gosh, I don't believe I'm going to say this, but I'm saying it. Oh my gosh. Oh, Aretha, I wish you was here to hear this. And it's could be considered to her fans disrespectful. It could be considered to her disrespectful. This is one time where I really wish I could have the artist in front of me to have this conversation. And I would say to Aretha, I say, Aretha, I don't like the 80s Aretha. I just don't. The 80s, and I don't believe I'm saying this because I grew up with listening to, Who's Zooming Who and Freeway of Love and Jumpin' Jack Flash. Like I grew up listening to this, and as a kid, you're hearing this, you're going, oh my gosh, like this lady is off the chain. Like I just love Aretha Franklin, right? And now listening to these albums, I'm saying, no, I don't like the 80s Aretha Franklin. Give me the 70s and the 60s Aretha Franklin, because this Aretha Franklin, I'm just not, feeling. And then I'm saying to myself, I'm saying, wait a minute, but why make this point? Why would you say you're not feeling this particular Aretha Franklin? And then it gets to me. And then I'm myself is asking myself questions. And myself says, it's time. It's all about timing. It's about the times. It's about the era. It's about the decade. It's about what's going on. It's about it's almost like I'm saying to myself, like I'm saying I love the 80s, right? and I love it because it's big hair and makeup and a lot of colors and a lot of fun and all of that stuff. Really it is, and I'm loving my divas because they're coming out and they're hitting these high notes, like they're holding their notes longer, hitting them higher. You know what I'm saying? Like they're doing those things that I love about my 80s. But then I'm saying to myself, but wait a minute. We're talking about Aretha Franklin, who grew up in a time of segregation. She sung those songs. She grew up in a time where she was a black female. She was a female. You see what I'm saying? Like she grew up where, I mean, it was, it was rough and it was tough. You know, That's the era in which she grew up in, and the era in which she really, you call it, I guess, what hit pay dirt, if you will, or she really was significant, is because there was a lot of things that was going on in the world at the time. Some of it not good, some of it good, but at the same time, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. You know, where everything just really and truly had meaning. It had meaning. And so as I'm listening to these two albums by Aretha Franklin, Aretha as well as Love the Hurt Away, and I'm saying to myself, like, Aretha Franklin is now, and I know some people out there, who are listening probably would say, oh, and don't forget Amazing Grace, that album, which I love. Don't forget Amazing Grace. And I love that album, Amazing Grace. And I know I kind of went off a little bit, but I love the album Amazing Grace. And when I listen to that album, the reason why I listen to that album every morning, I play that album every morning in the office. Like that's something that I play. And the reason why I love that album so much, it gives me memories of growing up in a church where, and somebody might take this as a diss, and not a diss, and I don't care because you're not understanding. Some people are just, you, you, I they're delusional sometimes. And the comment I am about to make is that I love it because it reminds me of just good old fashioned singing that I grew up with when I would go to church at a young age, growing up as as a preteen and as a teenager growing up. And those songs that I didn't know at the time, but some of those songs I would hear in the church growing up. And I'm saying to myself, like, oh, okay, well, those songs were out way before, of course, I was, born, but I'm still saying, like, oh, okay, I remember these songs being sung. But where I'm going with all of this is that going back to my point is that now, what do you sing about, Aretha? That's where I'm going. Not only are you in a career slump, sales slump, and yes, you might be, I came off a little bit saying like, oh, Aretha Franklin, she was kind of dirty, if you will, it was a little messy. And I still think that for her to go in and to, choose Chuck Jackson, Natalie Cole's producer, to go in and to choose Arif Mardin, Chaka's producer, like to go in and to do that. And I don't know if you was going in trying to reclaim your crown, your throne, or whatever it was that you was trying to reclaim, because these two divas have shown up, and I mean they're coming. Okay, Natalie Cole, she's in her career sales slump as well. But at this moment in time, Chaka is not playing, baby. She is not playing. She's telling everybody to kiss her behind. Rufus, the executives, everybody can kiss Chaka Khan's behind. You understand what I'm saying? Like, cause we're talking about 1980, 1981. Chaka's, she's doing the thing, right? And not only that, but Chaka is coming on at a time where now everybody wants Chaka. I'm talking about the Chaka sound, and no one is necessarily thinking about the Aretha Franklin sound. And Aretha has to hook up her act as well. And so now I'm looking with this Aretha Franklin, listening to Aretha Franklin's albums now. I'm saying to myself, like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, it was just a new era. Even when we're talking about disco and disco is out, and maybe I need to, do a little bit of disco, but it's only so much that you can do, right? And you can cover. But listening, thinking about disco and how, disco was, the main thing for, a split second. So, as I said before, Aretha Franklin, I'm just seeing her in a different light right now. And all I'm thinking about right now with Aretha Franklin in the 80s era is I just got to get the hit song. Just give me the hit song. I just want the hit song. Give me the hit song. Like, what do you sing about? I don't know. That's how I see her career now in the 80s. And I'm looking at her and I'm saying to myself, like, okay, I see, Arif Mardin. I see you working with him. Okay. I see you working with Chuck Jackson. But also, too, I noticed another thing that most people don't talk about. But when Patti LaBelle shows up, and Patti LaBelle is, on the scene now, she's on the scene real hard. And Patti LaBelle chooses to work with Michael McDonald on my own. And guess what ends up happening? Aretha Franklin comes along, and I guess she sees what Patty is doing with Michael McDonald. She was like, hold on, wait a minute, don't do that. Let me work with George Michael and let me knock this out the park real quick. I knew you were waiting for me. Like, who does not like that song? Like, I love On My Own, but I knew you was waiting for me. It's next level. So that's how I see Aretha Franklin right now in the 80s. It's like, let me just get the hit songs. And I'm wondering if this is just my opinion, like it's not fact, it's my opinion. I'm wondering what how did Clive Davis handle Aretha Franklin's career? Like, we know what he was able to do with Whitney, but Whitney is like out of this world. Aretha Franklin is definitely out of this world. But yeah, this is it's just interesting. And I'm not suggesting that Clive Davis did not give Aretha Franklin the material that was of, the era in which, she really made a significant and an impact in. It's not that, it's just that she, to me, in the 80s, Aretha Franklin is almost like she becomes just another diva. And I know a lot of people are saying, "How dare you say that?" But that's how it is to me when I'm looking at these albums. I know I got other albums to listen to and I know who's zooming whom. I know those albums are about to, surface because I'm gonna get to those albums, and then my commentary is gonna be like, okay, I get it. They're hot and they're smoking now, you know. But right now, in this part of the commentary, it seems like, she's just another diva. And and there are some tracks on this album that, oh gosh, I guess I need to talk about the album. I'm sorry, but there are some tracks on the album that I like, but I'm gonna keep this video uh uh um uh I'm not even going to get to the 30-minute mark with this video. I'm going to get to the 20-minute mark, and I'm going to cover the songs in another video simply because it seemed like it's taking really long. But that's what I want to say right now. And you guys might have an opinion about it. Please share it with me. I'm just interested in knowing. And here's where I'm going with this. I'm not saying that Aretha and Love the Hurt Away are not great albums, because I so love Aretha's version of it's my turn. At first, it was a little shaky, but then I was like, man, had she released "It's My Turn," she would have, woo, never mind. Maybe they didn't want to release it since, Diana Ross, but it's Aretha tore that up. Aretha, this is, yeah. Let me stop. But anyway, if you made it to this point in my commentary, I can only ask you guys to hit the like button, the share button, and the subscribe button. And thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. I hope that you guys stick around and support. Uh, the channel and everything that I'm doing over here. Remember, my motto is simple: put your behind where your heart desires to be. And wherever I leave my mother's presence, she always says to me, baby, remember, I love you, but God loves you best. I look forward to seeing you guys next video. And until then, you should know what to do about now. If you're not doing it, I don't know what's taking you so long. Take care of you. Because when all you have is you and God, then God is all you need. All right. Talk to you later.